sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all, everybody. Thank you. This is amazing. A $900 million facility, and they didn't put a microphone stand to hold the microphone. It's a hell of a deal, by the way. Is there anybody in here who has not been introduced yet? Would the 3 or 4 of you who have apparently done nothing for North Texas like to stand up and be recognized? Yeah? Gee, I mean, Tom's running through the entire list, and incidentally, you notice when he was trying to read from all that list, every so often he kind of stumbled, which happens. But it is another example of why I still support no pass, no play in Texas. My God, I'll wait for you here. If that offends you, you've heard nothing yet, by God. I think we thanked everybody but the people who served our luncheon today. So can we have a nice round of applause? For everybody but one. Did you see what happened to me? Did anybody notice this sitting over here? I mean, let's be honest about this. I didn't get to looking like this by skipping on meals, you know. I mean, what was that, like 4.5 ounces of chicken? So this lady sets the plate down. I looked at it, and I said, well, there's like 2 bites. And I said, excuse me, but I noticed you've got a few empty tables. Would you grab me another plate? She looked at me. She said, that's all you get. Now, I don't like doing this. I mean, I really don't, but I looked at her, and I said, well, maybe you don't know who I am. She said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Dale Hansen from Channel 8, and I'm the featured keynote speaker, and I want another plate. And she looks at me, and she said, well, maybe you don't know who I am. And I said, well, who are you? And she said, I'm the person in charge of serving your table, so sit your fat ass down and shut up. So, is there like a McDonald's here on Beltline someplace? See, it's probably just, well, I'm trying to lose weight, but the problem is, my wife, this is absolutely true, my wife can still wear the same clothes that she graduated from high school in. Now, she's only 19 years old. She's a mature young lady. My wife went to the doctor. She got her annual physical. She came home. She said, Dale, the doctor tells me I have the body of a 17-year-old teenage girl. I looked at her and I said, well, what did the doctor say about that 70-year-old fat ass of yours? She looked at me and said, your name never came up. So I guess I'll skip on that McDonald's trip here. So I'm intrigued by this. I've been looking over here. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this. You decide to have a luncheon about fake news, and my name was the first name that came up as the speaker. Who recommended me? Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, for goodness sakes? I mean, yeah, but they're right. It is one of my favorite topics. We're living in an incredible time, ladies and gentlemen. We're living in an incredible time. Fake news is a disgusting argument to me. It's an absolutely disgusting argument to me. Because as they point out, what we do in our society today, if we don't like the news, then we label it fake news. I guarantee you Cowboys owner Jerry Jones would tell you that I thrive on fake news. Except when Cowboys fans like what I say, when Cowboys fans disagree with what I say, then of course they're angry and I'm just another one of those fake news guys. We have to be very careful here because I think this is incredible. I found this is about the extent of my preparation for this, by the way. But I found this quote recently, and maybe some of you have heard this recently as well. It is the press above all which wages a positively frantic and slanderous struggle, tearing down everything which can be regarded as a support of national independence, cultural elevation, and the economic independence of the nation. Let me repeat this for you. It is the press above all which wages a positively frantic and slanderous struggle, tearing down everything which can be regarded as a support of national independence, cultural elevation, and the economic independence of the nation. You've probably heard that, have you not? The sentiment rings true on a regular basis today, does it not? Adolf Hitler, 1936. Adolf Hitler, 1936. The enemy of the people, Joseph Stalin. The enemy of the people is a phrase coined by Joseph Stalin. And for people in my business to be referred to as the enemy of the American people is obscene. It is disgusting. We, ladies and gentlemen, are the sons and daughters of truck drivers and teachers. We are the sons and daughters of those who work on our farms and in our factories. We are the sons and daughters of those who drive cabs, who work in banks, and work in bakeries. Our parents are some of the richest people in America, and our parents are some of the poorest people in America. We come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. We follow every religion, and in some cases, no religion at all. Because we are not the enemy of the American people. We are the American people. We are the American people who have decided to record the American story so that when they write about this day, hopefully they can write about it as accurately as possible. We tell the truth. We report the facts. We expose the lies. Do we make mistakes? Of course we do. Of course we do. But anyone who is dumb enough to confuse the occasional media mistake with media bias would be dumb enough to confuse today's weather with climate. We make mistakes in our business, and the good people fess up to it. But this is the problem with our business. Bill Maher pointed out this the other day, and it's true. Once they figured out that the news media was a money-making possibility, our business changed. There used to be a day when the networks and the local television stations presented news only to provide a public service to the community, and then they realized we can actually make money doing this. And now we have blurred those lines. The internet obviously is a major problem, but it's not even the internet itself. It's talk radio. It's cable television. One of my very best friends, who is so conservative, she actually thinks Fox News is a little bit too liberal. But she true story, she says to me, I get all my news from Sean Hannity. No, you get none of your news from Sean Hannity. You do not get news from Sean Hannity. You do not get news from Rush Limbaugh. You do not get news from Tucker Carlson. You do not get news from Chris Cuomo. You do not get news from Don Lemon. You do not get news from Rachel Maddow. You get infotainment. You get a person with a point of view that's trying to rile up a base to click the eyeballs to turn on their TV show. You do not get news. And yet we are as responsible as anyone for you not understanding that. They call it Fox News, and then every time someone exposes the hypocrisy of a Sean Hannity, he always falls back on the argument, I'm not a journalist, I'm an entertainer. When Sean Hannity blasted Barack Obama for playing too much golf and ignoring the responsibilities of the Oval Office, only to find out that Donald Trump played more golf in his first 2 years than Barack Obama did in 8 years in office. And Sean Hannity said, the president needs the break, which is right, which is true, I agree. The president is entitled to some downtime. But you cannot blast Barack Obama for 8 years because he was ignoring the realities and the demands of his office and immediately do a 180 and say that Donald Trump deserves the downtime to get away from the pressures of his office. The hypocrisy of that position is mind-boggling. And when it was finally exposed, he falls back on the argument, hey, I'm not a journalist here. I'm just an entertainer. Except he loves being under the umbrella of Fox News. CNN, which I happen to watch most of the time, the most trusted name in news. Hell, CNN hasn't done news for 7 years. CNN does infotainment. Now, you can either like Don Lemon or not like Don Lemon. You can like Jake Tapper or not like Jake Tapper. You can like Chris Cuomo or not like Chris Cuomo, but it's not news. I spend half my time Dale, I can't believe that you didn't report about the trade, that the Cowboys were going to trade Dak Prescott. And they were going to get Eli Manning from the Giants. I'm like, no, they're not doing that. So I heard it on the ticket today. No, what you heard on the ticket was Dunham and Miller with 4 hours to fill in the morning. And they go, hey, what if the Cowboys did this? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's really funny with Dunham and Miller. But stories will start. Somebody on ESPN radio, somebody on the Fan, somebody on the ticket. Hey, how about if the Mavericks trade Dirk Nowitzki last year and see if they can get a first round? Why would they trade Dirk Nowitzki, Dale? And you didn't even mention it. You did because they're not going to trade Dirk Nowitzki. It was somebody on the Fan who had 3 hours to kill. And Sean Hannity does it every day. Tucker Carlson does it every day. Laura Ingraham does it every day. Now, the fact that I happen to think they're all morons is somewhat irrelevant to the position. But it's destroying the fabric of our society. It is absolutely destroying the fabric of our society. There is a reason. There is a reason, ladies and gentlemen, that the First Amendment is freedom of the press. That is the absolute bedrock of our foundation. It is the first thing that dictators try to attack and take away. North Korea doesn't have freedom of the press. Iran doesn't have freedom of the press. Pakistan doesn't have freedom of the press. China doesn't have freedom of the press. Russia doesn't have freedom of the press. And yet we live in a society now that refers to the freedom of the press as fake news and the enemy of the American people. And each and every one of you should be disgusted by that. You will miss us when we are gone. You don't realize it now. I'm sure many of you don't. But you will miss us when we're gone. And the very real possibility is that probably not in my lifetime, but in the lifetime of many of you in this room, my business will be gone. It's already creeped into the sports business. Most people will tell me, I don't get my sports news from you anymore. I get my sports news from Cowboys.com. No, you don't. You don't get any news from Cowboys.com. You don't get any news from Rangers.com other than what they want you to know. Is that really the world you want? Is that really the world you want? People in my business, and it's already been done in several stations around the country, have done away with their sportscasters. They don't do local sports anymore because the typical sports fan has decided to get their news from the internet, and the internet is controlled by the teens. You listen to a radio broadcast? Tell me if I'm wrong about this. The Cowboys used to have their radio broadcast on KVIL. And there was about 4 to 5 hours of programming from great entertaining sportscasters on the ticket. And they just blasted the Cowboys during that incredible 5-11, 5-11, 5-11 seasons. And they would start early in the day making jokes about Jerry Jones and whoever the coach of the year happened to be as Jerry was going through his revolving door. And then all of a sudden, the Cowboys ended up on the ticket. And I was no longer welcome because Jerry Jones Jr. said, we would like to bring the Cowboys broadcast to the ticket, but we can't do it if Dale Hansen is on your radio station. So they made me a ridiculous offer because Dan Bennett and I are great friends to this day. He's the general manager of the station. And Dan Bennett made me this ridiculous offer. And I just laughed and I said, oh, you need me to go. So I left. And I went to ESPN. And all of a sudden, all the criticism of the Cowboys stopped. The ticket didn't really have anything bad to say about Jerry Jones anymore. The ticket really didn't have anything to say bad about the draft picks that couldn't play, the free agents who were a waste of time and money. And then you go to the Fan and you go to the ESPN, and the Mavericks play on ESPN. Find me the next ESPN announcer that criticizes the Mavericks. Find me the next person on the fan who criticizes the Rangers. Because the Rangers play their games on the fan. Well, they got several hours of programming devoted to the greatness of the Rangers. Find me the guy who makes fun of the Rangers on the fan. ESPN does. The Ticket does. But they won't say a damn thing about the team that's on their station. When I was at ESPN, they were doing a deal with Ben Roethlisberger, who had just been arrested for his second rape allegation. A Super Bowl winning quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers had just been arrested for his second rape allegation. And as I went to do my radio show, they said, Dale, you cannot talk about Ben Roethlisberger. ESPN in Bristol has sent out a directive. We are not allowed to talk about Ben Roethlisberger because they were in the process of doing a deal with him and the Steelers. So I quit. I left. I'm telling you, this is the world we live in. Is this really the world you want? It's uncomfortable. News is uncomfortable. News is not designed to make you feel good. Magazine after magazine, television show after television show has said, I'm going to dedicate myself to doing good news. We're going to do good news. And not one of them succeeded. The argument that I always make, we don't report on the planes that land safely at your airports. We report on the one that crashed. We don't report on the hundreds of thousands of people who make the commute every day to go to work. We report on the guy that slammed his car into the viaduct and killed somebody. We don't report on the police officers and the firefighters who live a life that not hardly any of us in this room, except for the people who do the job, are willing to do. The people who run into a building that's on fire while we're trying to run out. The people who chase the person down an alley that we're trying to run from. They do it, hundreds of thousands of them do it across the country each and every single day, and they do it to the highest possible standard. We very seldom report on them. But by God, we will report on the one who makes a mistake. Because it's news. The fact that it is a mistake, the fact that it is abnormal, that's what makes it news. Does it make you happy? If you're the chief of police of Addison and we're doing a story about your crooked cop, I'm sure it doesn't. Does it make you happy in Farmers Branch or Carrollton when we're making stories about people who are making the news that you don't want the community to share? I'm sure it does. That's what we do, and you should want it to be that way. We are the checks and balances that this country needs because you don't have the access that we do. You don't have the platform that we do. We speak truth to power, we report the facts, and we expose the lies. And we have to do it in the media because we know the Congress won't do it. We know the Congress won't do it. We know the U.S. Senate won't do it. We know the cabinet won't do it. And we're getting perilously close, ladies and gentlemen, to the day when our courts won't do it either. If what we do doesn't matter to you, if we allow that day to come to America, when the truth really doesn't matter, when the facts don't matter, and the lies don't matter to you anymore, if we allow that day to come to America, then America won't matter anymore either. I'll leave you with a very simple thought. I know it's not popular to quote crazy-ass liberals in Texas, but I am one, so I figured why not. But I try to live my life this way as best I can. Senator Ted Kennedy once said, we know the future will outlast all of us, but I believe that we live on in the future we make. I love that. We know the future will outlast all of us, but I believe that we live on in the future we make. That's what all of you in this room are committed to. That's what every one of you should be responsible for. That's the obligation that you have. That's the responsibility you have, and that is the opportunity you have. And whether you agree or disagree, whether you like it or don't like it. That's what the vast majority of the media does. We make mistakes because we're human. But we're not fake news, and we're not the enemy of the American people, because we are the American people. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been outstanding. Thank you very much.